But we are brought to you by Modelo, and each and every Monday we kick off the program here on Big 12 Radio, on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios with our Big 12 Whiparound. So Will chimes in. Will give us a game.
And by the way, this is the last one for the season.
I don't like that.
Yeah. How about that?
Now I've got all the feels today.
Yeah. Week 14. Boom. Done.
All the feels. It's gone. We
It's
can't
over.
do this for bowl season or basketball season. I love the Big 12 Whiparound.
We can do it. Yeah. No, don't worry, James. We'll figure it out. Life goes on.
It's my favorite part of the show. Minus all the other fun things we do.
It's true.
All right, Will, you're going to give us a game, and we're going to break it down. We've got a timer on the clock. We'll go a minute or two on each. So walk us through, where do we start today?
All right, producer Will.
That music's very loud.
It is.
Very nicely done.
So we start today, Kansas, Utah. Go.
Kansas and Utah. Utah won at 31-21. I'll leave plenty here for Ari to have the floor. Jalen Daniels had a key throwaway. This is the play right here. Not on Big 12 Studios. I thought it was the play because it was a similar part of the field later in the game, in which he's trying to throw the ball away, and he throws it towards the back corner of the end zone, and it is intercepted. It was a huge turning point in the game. Utah dominated in the second half. Devin Dampier, 253 passing, 3 touchdowns. He delivered when it mattered most. But, Ari, how did this one feel over the weekend?
Yeah, not good. So Kansas, was hanging tough with Utah in the first half. And then it kind of came apart in the fourth quarter, and Jalen Daniels came unglued. Kansas had 4 drives in the red zone in the second half and came away with 0 points, which included 2 red zone interceptions, including the pick 6 by Jalen Daniels. So when you look back on Jalen's career, ultimately this won't be a game he'll be remembered for, because he had 3 INTs, a pick 6 in the second half, and again, Kansas had 4 red zone drives in the second half and came away with 0 points on those red zone drives. But, yeah, ultimately, there were some turnovers on the part of Utah in the first half. Not a clean game by Utah, but they pulled away late and won this game. And, I would say with Jalen Daniels overall, it's a guy that came in, probably played his best in 22 and then just seemed to regress. Never really got better at all over the course of his career. Like just at his top of his heights of his power in 2022.
Totally agree. And his numbers this year look really good on paper, but he just made a lot of costly, boneheaded plays. Like that play where he's scrambling out of the pocket and he's just throwing the ball away. You can throw it anywhere. It's like in his brain he said, how can I make this look as cool as possible? Oh, I'm going to chuck it as far as I can off balance to the back corner of the end zone. Doesn't make it to the sideline, and Utah's the only guy within 20 yards of that football for the INT.
All right, next up, Houston-Baylor.
The Houston Cougars finished the season 6-0 on the road for just the 3rd time in program history. They go 9-3. They did it in 2011 and 2021. They led 14-0 and really never looked back. Connor Wegman accounted for 3 touchdowns. Baylor could once again move the football between the 20s, but in 6 red zone trips, they only had 1 touchdown. They had a couple of turnovers in the first quarter. Houston really controlled this game.
Yeah, and Houston was up 24-9 heading into the fourth quarter, and they watched their lead disappear within 7 minutes, including a 4th and 9 touchdown that Baylor had to Josh Cameron to get within a touchdown. But ultimately, Baylor had the ball inside the Houston red zone and failed on 4th down. Houston holds on to win 31-24. And so this game really came down to 2 drives. One, a 15-play, 74-yard, nearly 7-minute drive capped off by Dean Connors on the goal line to put Houston back on top 31-24, and then Houston getting the stop on defense in the final 2 minutes of this football game. So great win by Houston to salt this one away in Waco. And Baylor now 5-7 outside the bowl picture.
Colorado, Kansas State.
Oh, this was gross. Man, it was gross. It was 32 degrees with a wind chill in the 20s in Manhattan. It was a light crowd. This game was tied 7-all at the half. The K-State offense was stagnant for most of the game. They barely passed it. There was also a really gnarly wind, which I think played into just how gross this game was. But once again, Joe Jackson was really big for K-State. K-State knocked through a couple of field goals late in the game. They were up 17-7 with 6:43 to go, but the Buffs answered with a 9-play, 75-yard scoring drive. Jackson would seal it with a 17-yard touchdown with 2.5 left. He finished with 142 yards, but Avery Johnson, 10 for 17 passing, just $115, and again was non-existent in the ground game, just 36 yards rushing, which has been the story all season long.
5th straight bowl trip for the Wildcats.
Hey!
Yeah, this felt like a game where K-State should have ran away with it early. Instead, it was 60 minutes of stress against a hapless Colorado team. Colorado defensively had struggled all year. And when you consider that early on in this game, Joe Jackson, it took a little bit for him to get going. He finally did. But K-State only got to 206 yards, which is less than the average that Colorado gives up on the ground. And then we saw the full Caden Salter experience. Drives extended by his legs, creativity, but then inconsistency, incompletions, and a key interception. It was the full-on Caden Salter experience for Colorado.
Iowa State, Oklahoma State.
This one was also cold and windy in Stillwater. Iowa State got the 20-13 win. Wasn't pretty. Field position, turnovers, the difference, and then Abu Sama, a 40-yard burst in the third quarter to make it 17-7. He finishes with 87 yards on 12 carries and a touchdown, but the Iowa State defense holds a hapless Oklahoma State team to 219 yards. 2 takeaways in the contest. Rocco Becht had a 16-yard touchdown in this game. Iowa State, they never led by a huge margin, but they led wire to wire and got the win, and Iowa State hits 8 wins for the 5th time under Matt Campbell, and Oklahoma State's lost 19 straight Big 12 conference games.
Yeah, Oklahoma State pulled within 1 score 3 times, but they can never get over the hump because of turnovers, penalties. Flores hit a fumble and an inability to finish drives. You mentioned the Abu Sama 40-yard touchdown run. That was the biggest play of the game. This was classic Matt Campbell grinder ball when Iowa State 231 rushing yards, 227 for Oklahoma State. They ran the ball. They played defense. They won situational football. They survived ugly. Classic Iowa State grinder performance here. And look, I mean, this is the floor for Iowa State football under Matt Campbell, right? You have a bad season to win 8 games with a chance to win 9 now going to a bowl. Pretty incredible for that program. 10 seasons for Matt Campbell, you mentioned it. 5 seasons of 8+ wins. So it's not bad. Not bad.
Texas Tech, West Virginia.
And Iowa State lost, all 4 of their games in 4 consecutive showings.
Yeah.
So they bookended their season with a really nice start and a really nice finish. Now, Texas Tech and West Virginia, I watched a good chunk of this game, and it felt like Texas Tech was sleepwalking, and they still won by 49. It was just a day at the office for the Red Raiders. 4 of their first 5 drives resulted in touchdowns, and they hit 3 different wide receivers for scores. Baron Morton got pressured a couple of times, but he didn't take a sack, so minimal damage done to his body as they get ready for the Big 12 championship game. But again, the defense just absolutely nails. Jacob Rodriguez had his 2nd rushing touchdown of the season to help his Heisman campaign. A shutout in Morgantown.
Yeah, 49-0. It felt like it was way more than that. And yeah, I think you're right about the sleepwalk part, especially early on. Like, Morton was pressured a bit early on, and look, the first couple drives, like, this could be a struggle here.
Yeah.
And then they got Cameron Dickey going, and that really kickstarted their offense. Caleb Rogers was phenomenal in this game, and Cameron Dickey went over 1,000 yards in the season in this game. And Texas Tech just kept scoring and kept stopping West Virginia. Remember, both Texas Tech and BYU had clinched the Big 12 title berth before their game, so they didn't need a win, but both showed up in big ways in their games.
UCF, BYU.
Yeah, this one was kind of similar to Texas Tech, except UCF actually had a lead. They had a 14-0 lead over BYU, and it's like, okay, keep an eye on this game. Is this the Kansas game from last year? And BYU slammed the door shut on that idea relatively quickly. They outscored UCF 21-7 in the third quarter. They had a 3rd rushing touchdown from L.J. Martin. The defense really clamped down after that first session, holding UCF to just 1 more touchdown the rest of the game. Bear Bachmeier finishes with 289. BYU gets the 41-21 win. L.J. Martin, 95 yards on the ground with those 3 touchdowns that I noted.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier it's the first time ever for 11 wins in the regular season. First time since 2001 for BYU to get 11 wins in the regular season. And their best 2-year stretch ever with 22 wins. And yeah, I mean, this game was 14-0 UCF. And then BYU put 31 unanswered, which the exclamation point was Parker Kingston at his first punt return touchdown of the season to make it 31-14. Yeah, but UCF was outscored 41-7 overall and 31-0 unanswered to put this game to bed. And Bear Bachmeier, arguably his best performance, 289 yards passing, only 4 incompletions, had a touchdown, and just did a good job in terms of passing and throwing and running and knowing when to do each of those.
All right, we had Arizona State.
This was maybe the biggest shocker of the weekend for me. Arizona to go on the road and beat their rival. 23-7 was the final. The Arizona Wildcats finished the season 9-3, 6-3 in the Big 12. They spoiled any chance for Arizona State to make the Big 12 title game. And remember, this game was on Friday, so it was a day before Texas Tech and BYU. It was the same day as the Utah game. But Arizona outscored Arizona State 20-0 in the second half. Didn't allow any big plays in the final 2 quarters, and Noah Fafita goes for 286, a touchdown. He was efficient, and they forced 5 turnovers, which is very un-Arizona State-like offensively.
Yeah, Jeff Sims, this was the full Jeff Sims experience, something we've seen throughout his college career where he was just giving the ball away. Dalton Johnson had a fumble recovery just to rip the ball away, and then also an interception late in this game. Yeah, Fafita was in control and command on offense, but this game was about Arizona's defense. Arizona's defense just absolutely dominated Arizona State. 5 turnovers and held Arizona State to just 214 total yards in this game, which is the second fewest ever for Arizona State in this game against Arizona. So, statement win for Brent Brennan and this Danny Gonzalez defense.
Cincinnati TCU.
Well, this was another shocker, and I think because of how it happened. So there was a massive delay in this game. TCU gets on the board 7-0. Joseph Manjack caught a 3-yard touchdown, and then you had a 90-plus minute weather delay. Second time this season that they've been delayed out in Fort Worth. Hoover, back-to-back haymakers in the second quarter after the delay, a 44-yard catch and run to Jeremy Payne, an 81-yard drive that was capped with a 17-yard touchdown to Eric McAllister. Payne went bananas. Where has the ground game been all season? TCU, I cannot figure out that football team. Here we are, week 14 or whatever it is, and I still don't know which TCU team's going to show up. They finish 8-4 after they pound Cincinnati over the weekend. Final score 45-23.
Yeah, this thing was 24-17 late in the first half, and TCU goes on a 9-play, 75-yard drive, capped off by Payne's 9-yard touchdown run. And that sort of felt like where this game was over. Manjack had a touchdown that was then recovered in the end zone by Dwyer after he fumbled it in the end zone. And we have to have a discussion about Cincinnati losing another November game. You mentioned this early last week, I believe, or maybe even 2 weeks ago. Cincinnati has lost 10 straight games the month of November dating back to 2023, and they've lost 11 of 12 overall. Cincinnati has 1 win in November in the first 3 seasons in the Big 12. It became November 11th, 2023, 24-14 win over Houston. So, and I thought Sorsby played well. He did all he could do. But this was a lot of what we saw last year from Cincinnati when they struggled down the end of the season with, inability to run the football. Their defense couldn't stop anybody. Josh Hoover had as many touchdowns as incompletions in this game.
This time last year, Cincinnati was fighting to make a bowl game. This time this year, Cincinnati at one point controlled their own destiny to make the Big 12 championship game. They end the season on a 3-game losing streak.
And how about this stat? Cincinnati under Scott Satterfield is 0-18 when trailing at halftime.
0-18.
0-18.
I mean, coaches usually have a really bad record when they trail at the half, but not 0-18 bad.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's rough. All right, coming up next, Ari and I will break down our Big 12 Today weekly awards. We go through our Players of the Week, our Coach of the Week, and then the important stuff like Jersey of the Week, Atmosphere of the Week. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios. We're back after this timeout. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.